Good afternoon and welcome startup teams to your very last webinar. I'm Amy
Woo!
Siegel, Director of Programs at ASA.
And I'm Tina Wiseman, your Strategic Planning Specialist.
And we will jump in without further ado.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to talk today about intervention preparations. We'll start with a quick review. This is our map of the year, and we are now, last month you worked on your interventions and got all of those set up. And this month we're going to be working on preparation, which includes professional development, your annual calendar, and resource securement.
So here's how we go about the preparations. So now that all the interventions have met criteria, it's time to further develop them in order to strengthen their effectiveness. So to do this, you'll have several options. One thing that we highly recommend is that you do an evaluation of your intervention. And that just keeps it on the page, which is a good idea. We also suggest, and in some cases it's mandated by Indiana rules and regulations, that you have professional development, but that will be outlined in that area. Resource securement, always remember that if you need resources of any kind, now's the time to get those planned, as well as funding securement. If it's going to cost anything to get this done, make sure that you have those things in plan, because you don't want something to not work just because the planning wasn't there. And then if none of those fit, then we also have the other tasks item that you can use. So for the evaluation part, no intervention will thrive without timely checks on how well it's doing. So always remember, in the evaluation, what you're doing is you're trying to see which adult group this intervention is designed to impact. Remember, at this point, you are working to change adult behaviors. It's not the students, but it's changing the adult behaviors that are working with the students. And then you will also be asked, what practice is this intervention trying to bring about in that specific adult group? And then you will be asked, what will you count to determine the degree to which this practice exists? So remember that you don't want to use something that deals specifically with the students. It wouldn't be student discipline notices, or it wouldn't be the number of kids who do well on I-STEP. It's the adults. You're still in adult mode. So what are you going to count to see if the adult practice of the intervention is working? You will have baseline data date, and it's always here again. All these things are so important because this will keep everything on the front burner. You will have baseline data, and having a March 1st evaluation will enable you to evaluate the intervention prior to establishing interventions for the 1920 school year. So in that case, you will have that information done. You'll have the evaluation will be made before you start making your interventions, which is very helpful to see if you need to continue with it. Maybe you need to make it a little bit more intensive. Maybe you want to evaluate it a little more thoroughly, or maybe you've reached your goal. You will have evaluation data, you will have target data, and then of course the person responsible for collecting that follow-up data.
Sorry. Let's take a look at how you enter this online. Okay, so we're working in section 7, preparation, and we're going to go to our inner edit. And this is our test school. We only have one intervention that we entered. And I'm going to click on the enter button. That brings up my intervention preparation, and my first tab is evaluation. So as Tina said, we're looking at the adult group. So this is our new attendance policy, but we're going to pretend it's something else. Let's say that this is an intervention designed to change a classroom teaching practice. So which adult group is this intervention designed to impact? Teachers. What practice is this intervention trying to bring about in that adult group? Let's say that they're going to teach using new method. That is a really bad example. So yours, of course, will be much more specific to your real intervention. What will you count to determine the degree to which this practice exists? We're going to look at the percent of teachers observed using the new method. And then we decide when we're going to take our baseline data. So let's say that our intervention is starting this fall, and so we want to look at how we're doing at the end of the first semester, how many teachers have started. So we'll say that we're going to have our data by December 7th. And for our baseline, well, we don't have a baseline yet, but we would put in our baseline if we had one. Or actually, Tina, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Do we often have our baseline as the current date or current year? And if it's something that we've never done before, we might put in 0. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
And
let's
there's
say,
nothing wrong with putting in a 0 at all.
right, that's where we're starting. So today is May 30th, and I know that 0% of our teachers are using this new teaching method. But our evaluation date then, we want to look at next year by March 1st, how many teachers are using this. And our target, let's say that we want to say 90, that we're targeting 90%. We get to 90% usage. That's pretty good for a first year. We might be really ambitious and say 100, but I'm going to put 90 in. And then the person responsible, I'll say that that is one of our team members. And entry for this tab is complete, and I save. And that's how you complete your evaluation tab. We'll go back to our presentation. And we're going to look at professional development.
Okay. I will spend just a couple of seconds on a soapbox. When you do professional development, do not get caught in that sit and get way of thinking about professional development. That gets in the way of more schools being able to get some good practical time in with professional development than probably anything. So use timely and practical professional development such as action research. See what's going on in the classroom. You saw where you were trying to check that adult behavior to change it. And so you noticed that Amy used the word observations. So there's going to be this new method being observed. Go visit each other's classrooms, see how that is going, see who has a really neat idea, come back, bring that information back. That's action research in your building, and that's very important. You can use in-school discussions. More and more schools all the time are certainly wise in the fact that they're embedding the professional development plan and all of that into their monthly meetings. Sometimes they're doing it in their weekly meetings. Keep it going. There again, it doesn't have to be donuts and coffee day. It's going on all the time. Just think it's research and development. That's what you're doing. And you pull in good outside resources once in a while. If you're looking at a new behavior plan, look at the plan that you want, then do some reading, and then do some discussion. There's so many online discussion tools and everything else now that you can keep threads going. Wonderful things that you can be doing. And so there again, there's some great resources to give you even more ideas in our online VTA manual, and that's on 7.4. So what we're going to be looking for as far as your items in professional development is you'll want your PD activity name be very clear and concise. I'm not looking for anything catchy. Just it is what it is. The person who's responsible for it, the PD targeted adult group, and remember, it's the adult behavior that needs to be changed, the name of the PD facilitator, and then the level. Where are you at? Are you at introduction, preparation, early use, routine use? You may be in a couple of those, but make sure that if your number is 0 on that evaluation, that you certainly are at introduction. And then you'll want an activity description. And this is something, just think that, if you were introducing this to your teachers, what would be the description that they could pick up, look at it, and say, oh, okay, I get it. So just very, very specific, and that's all in the world we're looking for. We want it to be useful to you. We'll also be asking about your primary learning style. Is it going to be auditory? Is it going to be visual? Is it going to be kinesthetic? We'll be asking for your activity date, which there again, you can certainly have multiple dates for that PD. This will in turn go on a calendar so that you will have that to give to your staff. Confirmation that the PD will take place during contact hours. Now, we know that that always won't happen, but that's okay. But if you can make it, embed it in your day, of course, all the better. And then the anticipated result of that PD. So all of those things are important.
And again, let's take a look online at our professional development tab. So this being a brand new intervention, we haven't entered any professional development in the past, so our table is blank. And we do have a link to the Professional Development Activity Planning Guide. That is also in your VTA process, and it's in the manual. And we highly recommend that you read that, all of you on the steering team read that as you start the planning, not just when you're doing your entry. We also have a link to the Indiana State Board of Education's core professional development principles. So those are handy here. And so we're going to add a professional development activity. And this activity we will call Small Learning Community. Person responsible. Our targeted adult group is teachers. Our facilitators, I'm going to put in lead teachers. And our professional development stage, we're going to start at introduction because none of our teachers have done this before. It's brand new to our building, so introduction. You'll notice that you can check more than one. So if we had some teachers who have done this before, they might be in early use or even routine use. If we start with a pilot group, we may have some people who are in preparation and some who are back at the introduction stage. So using your best judgment as you're working through your intervention and planning these things out, you'll have be able to accurately select your development stages. So I'm not going to take time to type in a long or an activity description, but this is where, as Tina said, you really want to be clear so that everyone knows what is expected of them. When's it going to happen? Where's it going to happen? How's it going to happen? And then the primary learning style, I just want to be clear that we're talking about the learning style that's going to be used in this particular professional development activity. So we're not talking about the learning style that might eventually be used with students, but we are talking about the primary learning style that you're employing in your professional development. And so then we're going to add a date. So we're going to start this, let's say our first group meeting will be on August 9th. And as you see, I can add as many dates as I need. We'll do these on the first Thursday. And so on. So you'll put in as many dates as you need for this, for our small learning community. And then will this professional development activity occur during contract hours? And we'll say yes. And the result of our, we just type in the result. What is the change that you want to see? And save. And now you'll notice that we have small learning community listed 3 times because I entered 3 dates. If I wanted to go back in and tweak that, I can come back in, add another date. If I realize that I'm going to be doing overtime, this will be changing. I can add more. Yeah. So, and if I have a date, like if I realize that, oh, October 4th, we can't do that because we have a holiday planned for that day, I can just delete that one. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong about that. That deletes everything. We actually have to go back into our edit page and delete that one date. So deleting here will delete all of the activities. Okay. I will not waste your time putting that back in again. Sorry about that. But probably a good thing for you to see the difference between deleting here and deleting a date, a particular date, once you're in the edit screen. So when you're done with professional development, you have all of your dates entered, you have all of your activities. And it is important to note, like, let's say that learning communities, that was only one part of our professional development strategy. That let's say that we're going to do learning communities and we're going to do a presentation for the full faculty, and we're going to have time where teachers can go to other classrooms. You can add more of those. They're going to show up in date order, but yeah, you can add as many as needed. And we encourage a lot of planning in this area. We encourage a lot of planning in general because the more you plan, the more you're prepared, the more likely you are to actually put those interventions into place and to be ready for anything that might come your way. Okay, so we'll go back to the presentation.
And Amy, I noticed I just absolutely bombarded you there, so I can run through this part and you can then do the online if that would help. So I'll run through resources.
Sure.
Okay. So next are our resources. So if your intervention will need any kind of resource securement, now is the time to plan these items. So this would include what materials or human resources are needed to support the implementation of this intervention. And so you'll have what is a resources action plan, just 3 simple things. We'll ask for the task name, the person responsible, and for the deadline.
And let's look at that tab. Okay, so let's say that we're going to have, one of the things we'll need is our principal will take classes so teachers may observe each other. So our principal here is our big resource. And so the task name, and our person responsible is our principal. And then we'll set a deadline. And save. And again, we can add as many tasks as we need. If this is something that will be happening on an ongoing basis, you can add, set as many dates as needed. if it's something, yeah, if it's something that's going to happen on a very regular basis, like weekly, that's a lot of dates to add. We wouldn't necessarily look for that. We might have you say in your resources description that the principal will do that weekly, and then on your deadline, you can put your deadline at the end of the year. That's when the task will complete. You could also add a task that one of the resources you need is staff time. And so you'll need to make sure that you've secured time for training. If you're doing, let's say, a large group presentation to the entire faculty, you'll need to make sure you have time during whole staff training to do that. So any resources that you need, again, we want to give you the space to really plan these out. So think, we like to say, think low and hard. Read that description and think through anything that you're going to need: time, space. You might have a task where you're reserving space in the library, or you're reserving space in the auditorium. If you're going to, want a reminder that you're going to need to get audiovisual equipment, you can put that in, and that way you've got a person responsible and they know when they're supposed to do it. When you're finished with all that, again, you hit the entries complete for this tab and save. And now you've got a check mark at the top letting you know that your resources, the resources you need, have been entered.
So now we'll move on to funding. And of course, to have a good resource, unfortunately, we do sometimes need some financial or in-kind support. But if you're going to need this, here again, you have to, get your savings account, get that in there ahead of time. So if you need any kind of financial or in-kind support, be sure and plan it there again now. Too many good plans fail due to this not being carefully planned and carried out. And we all know, and just from my own experience in the past years, just also remember to have a plan B, because we all know that if there's soft money and something comes up and it gets cut, you don't want a good plan to be cut just because some sort of funding didn't come through that wasn't just ironclad guaranteed to begin with. So always kind of have a plan B that you could have as a backup. You don't necessarily have to have it on here, but have it in your back pocket. Just a common sense recommendation. So what will be asked is, what amount of funding is needed to support the implementation of this intervention? How will the funding be used? And then a funding action plan. There again, the task name, the person responsible, and the deadline.
And we'll look at this online too. So let's say that when we look at our resources, we realize that we were going to need $500. And how will this be used? To buy materials, and I add a task. So the task name is talk to and my deadline, I'm going to set a really soon deadline so that I know if I've got that or not. And now I have my task here. I might also be approaching our community foundation for money. And we'll say that we'll say that Tina's going to do that. And again, we want to do this soon. So say she's going to do that by the 8th. And now we have our funding action plan tasks. And we hit our entries complete and save. If entry is not complete, let's say that I look at this, I'm like, we probably are going to have to talk to the VTA and a few other people. Let me think about that. I can always remove that and save. And now I will remember when I come back in here that I still need to finish my plan for funding. Okay. All right.
And you'll notice that there's one tab left, and that covers, if nothing else has satisfied what you need for this tab, then maybe other will work. So after looking at the planning, if you see anything that will be needed that doesn't comfortably fit with those other tabs, you have another option, which are called other tasks. And in this case, just very simple, very straightforward, the name of the task, the person responsible, and the deadline.
And a quick look at other tasks. It's just like the others. You're adding a task. Our task name. I'm trying to think of something that doesn't fit into resources or funding or professional development. So let's say we use the auditorium, and we want to make sure, because we have had problems with this in the past, that we get the auditorium cleaned up. And so we're going to put somebody in charge of that. And we're going to do that on August 9th and save. And so now when I go to my other tasks, I see that there is a task for cleaning up the auditorium. We rarely see other tasks used, but we like to make sure that that we have you covered for any kind of planning. So if it doesn't fit in the other categories, there it is, and make sure you've got it in there so that your plan will be successful.
Okay, so once all that's done, then you're up to finishing everything up. So if, as you go through the planning stage, you decide that you don't want to use one of those preparations that Amy has just gone through on the online system, you're not stuck, because those were checked when you were putting together your intervention. And it's very easy to kind of get a little click happy with that. And it's not a bad thing as you're doing your intervention, because that keeps it there again front and center, so that you're remembering that you need to do all these different parts. But as you build this preparation and you see that maybe you have something left over that you really don't need, maybe you don't need other tasks, and you've checked that, it's really easy. All you have to do is go back into the intervention, and then under the initial planning tab, you just uncheck any of those unneeded items and then save. And then when you refresh your screen, it will disappear from the intervention preparations for the specific intervention. So that tab will disappear. Don't resubmit. You don't need to resubmit the intervention, but you're just cleaning up your own little files right now. And that's as simple as it gets, and that's how it works, and it's great that it works that way.
And on the other side of that, sometimes you have more tabs than you need, and sometimes you don't have enough. So if let's say we were looking at this and we didn't check other tasks, or we didn't check professional development, and so we didn't have those tabs here, we might really need those other tabs. So we have, when we're in the task, or I'm sorry, when we're in the intervention preparation screen, we have a note up here. If you no longer wish to further develop this intervention, or if you need to change development options, edit this intervention's additional intervention development needs. And we just click on that. And this takes us back to our intervention setup. We're on the initial preparation. And so let's say that we didn't need other tasks. So we uncheck that and save. And then at the top, there's a link to return to intervention preparation. I click that, and now I'm right back in intervention preparation, and my other tab is gone. Okay. The same thing could happen. Let's say that I've been working on this and I realize that I do have a task that just doesn't fit in a category. I can click on the link at the top. I check other tasks and I save. And then I'm going to click return to intervention preparation. And now my other tasks tab is here. And you can do that with any as needed. Another way to get here, if I'm on the process page, or let's say, I'm sorry, let's go back to the beginning of our preparations. And I can do this also from the screen that lists our preparations, our interventions that'll need preparation. The reason that we have it here is if I didn't check anything, if I thought that I wouldn't need to do any development for this, all of these would be gray because I don't have any tabs. So I can always go to revise and make changes to the initial preparation. And when I do that, whatever my changes are, it's the same process. I click Save and return to intervention preparation. And now I'm in that intervention. Okay? Click Save and go back to the Select Another Intervention, and here's my list. Okay, if you have any questions or need help with that, be sure to ask Tina. She'll walk you through that anytime you need.
And I know Amy makes it look very simple, but it truly is. When you look at it, it is so logically done that if you just sit and you look at it and work your way through it, you'll be just fine. But I'm on speed dial, so always be sure, give me a call, drop me an email, whatever, and I'll be happy to help you get through all of that. Okay, so once these items are complete and you've confirmed that they're complete, then you will want to submit the professional development summary and the professional development calendar. And that's one thing that sometimes people forget to do, that confirmation, and that's just right in under. Amy, could you go and show them that?
Absolutely.
Where that confirmation is?
So on our process, well, let me go back. Once I've finished, like right now I don't have a check mark here, and that is because I did not say that entry for this tab was complete. Now when I go to my preparations list, I've got a check mark. So I've entered everything, and that means I'm ready to submit. So I submit my the preparation for my intervention, and now I go back to the process page, and down here in preparation, I have one submitted. And when Tina reviews that, that will update, and it'll tell me that it's met criteria or it needs revision, and I'll see the feedback as always. What Tina was asking me to show you is in step 4, when you've finished all of your preparations and everything has been entered, we have a step here for you to confirm that you're finished. So you're just confirming that all preparations have been entered, and confirm. Then we go back to the process page. And down here, now my, oh, oops, I was in the wrong one. Now my status for preparations is confirmed in step 4. Okay.
And I do look for that, yes.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that it's important is because like right now I can't see my professional development summary because my preparations have not met criteria. We've got a note here in orange letting me know why. And it also says that the preparation completion has to be confirmed. So there are 2 steps there. You have to get all your preparations to meet criteria, and then you also have to confirm that you're finished, and then you'll be able to see and submit your professional development summary. So
okay.
Look for that.
Amy, if you'd like to refresh,
okay,
you'll have your wonderful reward there.
Yay! Tina has reviewed my one preparation, and it met criteria. So now I can see my professional development summary. I, of course, would want to take a look at that. We didn't actually end up putting in professional development for this little test case. But if I look that over and everything looked good, then I would go ahead and submit that for review. And go back to the process page. And the next thing that I want to look at, In step 6, we want you to seek local teacher association approval for the professional development summary. So you want to get that to your union rep. We highly recommend getting that out to all staff so that they understand what's going to be happening with professional development. The same thing with number 7. We want you to distribute the preparation calendar, and that's really your detailed plan of getting your interventions in place. So we have your preparation calendar, and that's going to take all of the tasks that you entered in the preparation section and put those in chronological order. And it'll tell the intervention. Of course, you're going to have a lot more interventions here. It'll tell you what prep area. So these are funding tasks. These are evaluation tasks. It'll give you the task description and the person responsible. And we highly recommend also, having your folks go through and highlight that person responsible if their name appears, and then get that into their calendar so that they know that they've got that in their personal calendar. Again, these are all tools for making sure that you get these interventions implemented. So once you've distributed the preparation calendar, you're going to submit for review, and you're just confirming that you have your preparations calendar has been distributed. And Tina will look over your preparation calendar, and if she sees anything that makes her think, oh, they need one more thing here, she'll let you know. But I think by that stage, usually those things come up in preparations. But she likes to give it one final look just to make sure everything's in place.
And I will tell you, one of the main errors is looking at professional development on Sunday. It's just it's just a date thing. So always be sure and check your calendar, a physical calendar, as you're doing that, to make sure that you're actually getting it on a day of the week that you want it.
Absolutely. It's an easy thing to do.
Very easy. Yeah.
Okay, and then the very last thing in step 9, we have you confirm that your SIP is complete. And in this case, I can't do that because not all of my submissions have met criteria, including my interventions and preparations. So actually, you can see right here, I've got 2 that have been submitted. And I bet that I definitely have crosswalks and things that haven't been submitted. So this is your final check. Go through, make sure everything has met criteria. If it hasn't, get those things, if they need revision, revise and resubmit those. And Tina will get those reviewed and back to you. So when this becomes available, you're going to hit that submit. And at that point, we encourage you to celebrate because your school improvement plan is done.
A lot of good hard work.
Absolutely. Oh, we've covered a little bit of this.
Yeah, that's fine. Here again, to kind of wrapping up the importance to the success of the plan, as Amy said, be sure and share this with the staff, because it's not an army of just the steering team that's going to be doing this. You've put in the footwork and everything, but now it's going to be staff wide. And so also be ready and available to answer those questions, any concerns people have. Don't be overly protective of it. I know you put a lot of hard work into it, but be open to questions and open to concerns. And then the SIP belongs to all and needs all to support it, and know it's their responsibilities to the SIP's contents. So every teacher in that building is going to have some part in that this next year. So it needs to be presented to everyone, and present it as a living, breathing document. This is not something that we're just going to take the dust off the 3-ring binder every 2 or 3 years just to say that we have it. This is something that's going to be your school calendar. It's going to go in with your professional development. You're going to make sure that there's research going on. You're just going to make sure that there's discussion going on. You have root causes that are keeping your academic success from happening. You have interventions in place. The only way that is going to happen and to work to make that, to get rid of those root causes, is to implement those interventions with fidelity and to have all these plans into place and then share them. make sure everyone knows what's going on as well as their responsibility to the plan.
Mhm. And remember that if you stay with SI2 next year, and this might be something important as you're talking to your staff about your plan, if you all stay in SI2, they're going to be involved in the discussions to write your next plan. You all have worked on the first draft, and you'll be implementing those interventions from your first draft next year. But at the same time, you're going to be reviewing and revising this plan with your full faculty and your community. Your student body will have a voice in your next plan. You all did this year as a steering team to get your feet wet and to be familiar with it, but next year the goal would be for you to stay with SI2 and to bring in a lot more voices so that there really is true ownership of the plan throughout your building and your community beyond your building. Oh, the criteria. When you submit that very last submission, the SI2 criteria for ASA approved SIP, we look to see that SIP holds high promise for impacting student achievement in the areas targeted by the SMART goals if all interventions are fully implemented with integrity. So that's our final check, and Tina will review that, and then that'll be the last one.
And hooray!
And
You'll be so happy.
we celebrate.
And we're so happy for you.
Absolutely. Oh, okay, sorry.
So once you have completed that SIP, excuse me, we have a phone in the background, SIP successfully, you will find the ASA approved SIP under the SIP archives, and Amy will show you this in just a minute. Now, do remember that if you alter the plan after it's been approved, you can generate a new plan, and now it will appear on the non-reviewed list. So do keep that in mind, and Amy will show you what that looks like here in just a minute.
So in this school, we have in our left, we call this the left navigation. This is all your links. Down here under PDF plans, we look at SIP archive. And right now we don't have one because we haven't finished our plan up, and so no PDF has been generated yet. But once we finish our plan and Tina reviews it, we'll have a PDF generated, and there'll be a link right here under reviewed by ASA. If we need to make changes, let's say that after all of this, our superintendent takes a look, or some of our faculty come to us and they have some concerns and we need to make some alterations, some additions perhaps. We can make those changes where they're needed and then generate a new PDF. And so the link is right here, right above the table, and that this is where you'll come to get it. So just remember, if we have to make changes, we do that. We come to SIP archive, generate a new PDF. So click that link, and then when my page refreshes, actually I think I can do that right now. And we have a little statement here just saying that we understand that the new PDF will not be reviewed by ASA and may not meet the ASA's planning standards. So yeah, click that button and the PDF is processing. And now I can download the new PDF and I can see all of my, yeah. And so now in 2018-19, I have a non-reviewed PDF that was generated on May 30th. I will note that if I do this a few times, it's always going to show you the most recent. So it's a good idea if you know there's kind of a process going on to go ahead and download this. And it just behaves as any other PDF behaves. Okay. And that is how you do that. This is also where oh, I think I'm stepping on Tina's section here.
Oh, no, that's fine. This is, and feel free to chime in anywhere, Amy. Submitting your SIP to the IDOE, in the fall, usually, it'll be early fall. When the IDOE calls for the SIPs to be sent to them, we will definitely notify you via the monthly update or email if we're in between update times. And the instructions for how to download and upload the document are found on the VTA process page under Section 8. And then you can submit the SIP to the IDOE, and Amy's going to show you that.
Last year they had a change in how those were submitted, and I think that they were just uploaded last year. So we're waiting to see what the process will be this year. But in Section 8, we'll have information about that. So there's a link to download your school improvement plan. And then whatever information we have about uploading to DOE, we'll have that in Step 2. And then we also have in Step 4, if anybody on your steering team is needing PGPs, we also have the log where they can download, and there'll be instructions on the log. So Section 8 is just kind of your finishing up with all the DOE related paperwork. One more thing to show you. I want to show you a school. One of the things that we do to celebrate when you get your school improvement plan finished and your PDF, your reviewed PDF has been generated, when you come to your process page, you'll see balloons. And Tina usually tells me when schools are getting close, she'll say, I'm getting the helium out. And we talk about, looking for your balloons. This is at the very end of the year. This is what our teams like to see when they get into their online account. They know that they've done everything that they needed to do for that school improvement plan.
And it's just such fun for all of us because we've had some schools in this process for 20 years, and they're still thrilled with the balloons because they just know it's like running through the finish line tape. It is such a beautiful sight to click that last time, refresh your screen, and there they are.
Yeah. So look for your balloons. You guys are going to get, we talk about earning balloons. You're going to earn your balloons.
Oh my, yes. They'll be the prettiest balloons you've seen.
As always.
Please call me. We will be sending out the June update here very soon. That will have my hours on it for June. Really the only difference is the offices are closed on Fridays in June. Otherwise, my office hours are the same. Do remember that I am here from 2 until 8 p.m. on Wednesdays, so that if you need to call in the evening, I'm available. Otherwise, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can always leave a message. You can always leave an email. If something occurs to you at 10 o'clock at night, send me an email, send me a message. I'll find it first thing the next morning. And even on Wednesday mornings, I'm checking. So I will try to stay in contact with you on Wednesday mornings as well.
We thank you so much for being part of SI2, and we really hope that you'll join us next year. Tina has had so many great things to say about your teams. We would love to continue working with you, and we'll have the sign-up information for next year in your June update. If there's anything we can do at all to help, though, as Tina said, please be in touch. We are happy to do so.
It has been a great pleasure, and never, ever, ever hesitate to call or email. Be happy to help in any way I can. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.